The Minnesota State University Mankato Criminal Justice Career Fair hosted 80 employers from around the state and the country to talk with students about their fields.
Evan Berg spoke with students, staff, and agencies about what they learned and the biggest obstacles for finding new talent.
MSU held its annual Criminal Justice Career and Internship Fair this Thursday to put the future of criminal justice in touch with seasoned professionals to teach them about the various options available to them in the industry.
It's a really good resource for people who are looking for jobs.
Jaden Holdmeyer is a senior who currently works as a community resource officer for the Edina Police Department.
Right now, there's a little bit of a push to get a lot of people into departments, so it can be just a little bit overwhelming. But otherwise, I mean, it's kind of a good time to get into law enforcement.
She says events like these are a good opportunity to start researching what's out there.
I think you can kind of get lost when you're not looking. Like in Mankato, if you're only looking at the Mankato Police Department or just the surrounding areas.
MSU started this career fair in 2021 to help students and agencies come together and find the right fit.
25 years ago, there were thousands of applicants for every open position, and now there's not enough applicants for every open position.
The university says for law enforcement, entry-level jobs in Minnesota usually start with a salary of around $60,000. But the salary and benefits departments can offer can vary based on the community and the tax base.
It's not always the highest paying job, but it's a very rewarding job. And we see ebbs and flows with the economy.
That can make it hard for smaller departments to sell themselves to potential hires, which is why many agencies say getting face-to-face time like this can be invaluable.
Law school admissions, last I checked, were down by about half. So it's really hard to find attorneys who, number one, find any attorneys, much less find some that want to come to government.
It's been challenging, but it's looking up. I would say that we've had a lot of people that are coming through, a lot of young students that just started school.
In Mankato, Evan Berg, KEYC News Now.
MSU says it currently has 420 students enrolled in its criminal justice department.
The university says there are a wide variety of options, including law enforcement, prosecution, and dispatching.